Hello everybody, Professor Nazmi here to talk about all the stuff that you've been already hearing about, so why am I talking about it? Well, in addition to all the preventive measures against COVID-19 that you are taking, such as not traveling, washing your hands, avoiding touching your face, covering your mouth and nose, avoiding contact with sick people, or really any people, but we'll get to that in a second, cleaning and disinfecting surfaces, staying at home, maintaining healthy habits. One thing that you've been hearing a lot about is social distancing. Take it from me, as an introvert of 44 years, social distancing is absolutely wonderful. But seriously, in the context of COVID-19, does it work? Short answer, yes it does. In fact, it's one of the most effective methods to stem outbreaks, and the earlier the better, because it does three really important things. Number one, it slows the rate of transmission. Number two, it decreases the number of cases. And number three, importantly, it does not overload health systems, because you can imagine if a bunch of people get the virus at once and everybody is seeking care, doctors, nurses, clinics, hospitals are going to be overloaded, overburdened, which causes collapse of healthcare systems. Everybody gets worse treatment. Everybody has worse outcomes because the hospitals and clinics cannot handle the caseload. So social distancing helps to prevent that by decreasing the total number of cases and then also slowing the rate of transmission. All very important. In New York, a few days ago, they closed bars, clubs, and restricted all the restaurants to takeout. California very quickly followed suit. On March 15th, the governor suggested also that seniors self-isolate because, of course, older folks are the ones with highest risk for bad outcomes associated with COVID infection. And just today, the county of San Luis Obispo, and this has happened in other counties and cities across California and the U.S., there is a shelter-in-place order, which means basically don't go out unless you really have to. And you really should be taking that seriously. I'm going to show you some visuals from the Washington Post just to give you an idea of what social distancing does. Now remember, these are just simulations based on a lot of assumptions, assuming everyone has the same risk. So let's have a look at what's going on here. The blue are healthy people and the brown are sick people. As there is no restrictions to movement here, everybody is going to get whatever the sick people have. Over time, what happens is everybody gets the disease, so you will have a tall spike in cases, and as that goes back down, people start recovering. And of course, in this recovered, row, it could say recovered or deceased. Let's do that simulation again. You'll see that with no restrictions in movement, the people who are infected in the brown become more and more until everybody has had the disease. Nobody is healthy at one point, and then people begin to recover or die. That is a normal distribution here, normal or Gaussian distribution, and that's what happens when there is no restrictions on movement. Everybody gets the virus because it is pretty virulent. In this case, there's a quarantine in place, so everybody on this side might get sick. When there's a break in the quarantine, sick people spill into the general population, give it to everybody in the general population. So even if there is a quarantine, one small break in that quarantine with no restrictions in movement leads to everybody else being infected. However, you will see that more people stayed longer for healthier. Run that simulation again. More people stay longer for healthier. All these guys are still blue. And this curve, this brown curve, is longer and it is lower. So it's lower and slower. So more people stay healthy. When the quarantine breaks, then everybody starts getting it. And then that curve goes up again. Afterwards, it starts to go back down. So the quarantine was effective in slowing the virus down, but because there were no limitations in movement, everybody eventually gets the virus, and down the road, people either recover or are deceased. Now let's go to another one. Here, you have social distancing, and you have sheltering in place. So you have much fewer people moving around. So the brown are still moving around, giving the disease to the blues, but you will see that this curve of brown is much lower, and most people stay healthy over time, so that over time, not only are the total number of transmissions decreased, of infections decreased, but also you have a much slower rate of transmission, which goes back to the overloading of health systems conversation. So you can just visualize it here that there's a lot less traveling happening. People are staying in place, so they are avoiding the transmission, they are avoiding the sickness, and you'll see here that there's a healthy chunk of blue that runs through this curve, which means you have some people that don't get the virus at all. Now, if we have a hardcore shelter-in-place order, and we're looking at this, many people are in place. Just a few of the brown virus-containing folks are going around giving the virus to healthy folks. In this case, where you have severe isolation and hunkering down, if you will, you have a lot of sheltering in place, you'll see that the majority of people remain healthy. The majority of people do not get the virus because of the limited amount of travel between people. You will see that this brown curve is actually quite low, and this is very effective at containing outbreaks. This is the reason shelter in place, this is the reason that social distancing works very well, and this is the reason that it's being implemented all across the country. Well, that's it, folks. I just wanted to give you an idea of what social distancing is and demonstrate how it works. If you're not social distancing, please do it. If you're not sheltered in place, also please get to the point where you are doing that as well. Try to go out as infrequently as possible, just for essential errands. Go outside for your mental health. Do some exercise, of course, but take care. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out, and we'll see you soon.